There was a note waiting for me this morning, right next to the sponge. It read, "Don't forget to buy dish soap. Also, could you unclog the bathroom drain?" No good morning. No heart. No name. Just a task list. The worst part? I said sure out loud. To no one. I stood there in my socks, holding that crumpled square of beige paper like it meant something. Like it was a love letter. Like it ever had been. That's when I realized. This has been my entire marriage. Sticky notes. Grocery lists. Reminder texts. Not a single message in 2 years that said, "I love you." Or even, "I miss you." I counted. Literally counted. Last Thursday, I scrolled back through every message from Taryn for the past 3 months. 87 total texts. 71 were requests. 7 were complaints. 9 were K. The other ones? Updates about the water filter. Do you know how many texts she responded to with red heart? 0. She used to use that emoji all the time. I thought she overused it. Now I miss it. Anyway, that note this morning wasn't special, but it was the last one I needed. Because something snapped. I didn't buy the soap. I didn't unclog the drain. Instead, I drove to Target, bought the cheapest mini notepad I could find, and I wrote down every single thing she's asked me to do over the last 2 months. Then I taped them all around the house. Fix garage door. Tape to the garage. Refill Brita on the empty jug. Get stamps on the front door. Be more present. That one went on the bathroom mirror. She came home, saw the walls covered in her own handwriting, and just stood there. "You're being dramatic," she said. I nodded. "But efficient." Because that's what she wanted, right? An efficient, emotionless machine. So that's what I'll be. No more hugs. No more questions. No more "how was your day?" Just duties. Pure, perfect duties. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor. Because the moment I stopped trying to be her husband was the moment she started noticing me again. That night, I didn't say a word to her. Not when she asked what was for dinner. Not when she mentioned the clogged sink again. Not even when she told me her coworker Amber just got promoted, even though she's basically illiterate. I just nodded once, turned the page of my book, and stayed silent. To be clear, this wasn't some grand revenge scheme. I wasn't plotting anything. I was just done. Done trying to be anything more than what she wanted. A background process. An automatic update. A tool that quietly fixes things while she scrolls Pinterest and forgets I exist. The funny thing? The silence worked faster than I expected. By the second day, she started asking if I was okay. Her tone had that fake softness, the one she usually reserves for customer service calls. She offered me half a croissant during breakfast, and when I said nothing, she looked genuinely confused. "You're being weird," she said, frowning as if my quiet was more offensive than her months of neglect. But I kept it going. I made the bed. I folded her laundry. I restocked the fridge. I even remembered to feed her stupid aloe plant. But I didn't speak. Not unless it was necessary. Not unless it was a task. I became everything she thought she wanted. A man who didn't expect affection, conversation, or connection. Just functionality. And that's when it started to unravel. It was small at first. She began hovering when I was on my laptop, pretending to check the thermostat. She sat next to me during a movie and asked if I wanted to talk about anything, like we were in some low-budget therapy session. I said no. The drain's clear, by the way. She flinched, and I knew it hit her, just a little, that something was different now. That the version of me who used to ask about her day, rub her feet, remember which wine gave her headaches, that guy was gone. She went to bed early that night. Didn't kiss me. Just said, "night." Then hesitated, like she wanted me to say something first. I didn't. I stayed up, staring at the wall, replaying the last 2 years of my life like a boring movie I couldn't walk out of. How did I let it get this far? How did I become a man who celebrated scraps of attention like they were golden tickets? At 2:34 a.m., I heard her get up. I listened as she opened the fridge, poured herself water, then stood in the hallway, not moving, not walking, just standing there. She didn't come in the room. She didn't say anything, but she stood there long enough for me to know it wasn't about water. The cracks were forming, and I hadn't even raised my voice. The third morning, she made pancakes. That might not sound like much, but trust me, it was bizarre. Taryn does not cook. She's the kind of person who orders a $25 smoothie because it's easier than cleaning the blender. The last time she used the stove, the smoke alarm got more attention than I did all month. But there she was, in the kitchen, flipping pancakes at 7:30 a.m. Like we were on some sitcom. I thought we could have breakfast together, she said, like nothing had been hollow for the last 2 years. I nodded, pulled out a chair, and ate in silence. The pancakes were dry. She watched me the whole time. Not in a sweet way. In that nervous, twitchy way people look at pets that suddenly bite. I think we've both been stressed lately, she said, pushing her food around. You know, drifting. I said, I cleaned the dryer vent yesterday. She blinked. What? You asked me to, a few weeks ago. It's done now. She didn't reply. Not right away. And for the first time, I saw it, panic. Not a tantrum, not rage, but confusion. Like she couldn't understand why the script wasn't working. Like she'd lost the remote to a robot that no longer took commands. The irony? I was finally doing everything she wanted. And it terrified her. Later that day, she sent me a text while I was working in the garage. Taryn, I miss how we used to talk. Can we talk tonight? I stared at it for a full minute. Then I typed. Me. Sure. What needs fixing? She didn't reply. When I came inside, she was on the couch, eyes red but pretending she hadn't been crying. She asked if I wanted to go for a walk, just like we used to. Said she read somewhere that movement helps couples reconnect. I said, you can go if you want. I'll vacuum while you're out. She flinched again. 2 days ago, I would have begged for that walk. I would have dropped everything, slipped on my shoes, tried to hold her hand and pretend that meant something. Now, I just saw a woman trying to rewind a tape that snapped. Here's the part one didn't expect. She started changing. Not just pancakes and awkward invites. I mean real changes. She canceled her weekend wine night with friends. She folded my laundry without being asked. She even brought home my favorite ice cream, the one she used to call old man flavor. Butter pecan. She'd mocked it. Now she was offering it like a peace treaty. And it pissed me off. Because she knew what I needed all along. She just didn't bother until she noticed I was slipping away. I wasn't even doing anything dramatic. No shouting. No cheating. No sleeping on the couch. I just disappeared emotionally. And that seemed to scare her more than anything. That night, I found her in bed, staring at the ceiling, whispering something under her breath. I stood in the doorway and listened. She was rehearsing something. A conversation. With me. And in her imaginary version, I was laughing. Forgiving. Coming back to her. She had no idea I was watching. And even less idea that I wasn't coming back. She started waking up earlier. Taryn used to sleep through anything. Thunder, alarms, even me dropping a full cup of coffee on the floor once. But lately, she'd been up before sunrise, pacing around the kitchen like a ghost, sipping tea she didn't drink, opening and closing the same cabinet doors as if the answer might be hiding behind the flower. I didn't say a word. Just watched her from the hallway like I was observing a stranger in my home. Or maybe I was the stranger now. She used to ask me why I was so quiet in the mornings. Now she couldn't stand the silence. At lunch, she left a post-it note on the fridge that said, "Hope you're okay. Let's talk tonight." She even drew a little crooked heart on the corner, like she forgot how to do it. Cute. I peeled it off, folded it in half, and stuck it in the drawer with the rest. That made 12 notes this week. 12 attempts to connect with someone she hadn't really seen in years. I still made dinner. Still took out the trash. Still watered the plants. But there were no more, "How was your day?" No back rubs. No jokes. Just clean, cold, efficient performance. Like I'd outsourced my emotions to a software update. And I swear, the emptier I got, the more her eyes started to follow me like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve. That evening, I walked in to find candles lit on the table. Real candles. The ones she once said were a fire hazard and a waste of money. And she was there, wearing a dress I hadn't seen in years. The red one from that work party in year 2. The night we came home drunk and laughed so hard we fell asleep still in our clothes on the couch. Now she was standing stiffly in the same dress, holding 2 wine glasses like a waitress who forgot the order. "I made risotto," she said softly. "With mushrooms. You like mushrooms?" It wasn't a statement. It was a question, like she wasn't sure anymore. I sat down, ate in silence. The risotto was undercooked. She kept glancing at me, waiting. I knew what she wanted. A crack in the armor. A smile. A sign I was still there, somewhere under the blank stare and perfectly timed chores. Halfway through the meal, she blurted, "Why are you being like this?" I blinked. "Like what?" "You know what I mean." I looked at my plate, then back at her. I'm just doing what's expected of me. That's not fair, she snapped. You're punishing me. I tilted my head. No, I'm just following instructions. She slammed her wine down hard enough to splash the tablecloth. Fine, she said, grabbing her phone. Just keep pretending like everything's perfect while you act like a ghost. She stormed off to the bedroom. 10 minutes later, I heard the lock click. I finished dinner alone. Later that night, I walked past the bedroom and paused. I could hear muffled sniffles behind the door. Not sobbing. She never cries like that. Just tiny, exhausted exhales. The sound of someone trying not to be heard. And part of me almost felt something. But I didn't knock. I didn't ask if she was okay. Instead, I went to the guest room, opened my laptop, and booked a hotel for the following weekend. Just 2 nights. Nothing suspicious. Just distance. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. Because somewhere deep down, Taryn was finally realizing that the man she married was gone. And worse, he wasn't even angry about it. She didn't speak to me for 2 days. Not in anger. No yelling. No accusations. Just complete silence, the kind that used to come from me. Now it was hers, and she wore it like armor. I could feel it in the air, like static. We moved around each other in the kitchen like strangers sharing a rental house, careful not to brush elbows. On the 3rd day, she cleaned the entire bedroom. I mean deep cleaned. Took everything out of the closet, boxed up half her clothes, rearranged her jewelry drawers. She even vacuumed under the bed. She never did that before. She used to say, "What I can't see won't kill me." I stood in the doorway and watched her for a moment. She looked up, startled, then went right back to folding sweaters. "I just needed to get rid of clutter," she said without looking at me. "It's starting to feel crowded in here." I almost laughed. We hadn't touched in weeks. The only thing crowding the room was all the things we didn't say. That night, she moved her pillow to the far end of the bed. Then she locked the bedroom door. Not slammed it. Not even clicked it closed in anger. Just a soft, deliberate lock. It wasn't about safety. It wasn't about privacy. It was about sending a message. And here's the thing. I didn't care. I went to the guest room and slept better than I had in months. The next day, I left for work early. She didn't say goodbye. When I came home, her car was in the driveway, but the lights were off. I stepped inside, and for a split second, I thought she wasn't there. Then I saw the glow from her phone screen in the living room. She was curled up on the couch, scrolling with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She looked up when I walked in. There was a beat, a pause, like she'd been rehearsing another speech but lost the script. "I ordered Thai," she said finally. "There's some for you on the counter." I nodded and walked past her. She followed me into the kitchen and leaned against the counter while I plated the food. "You could have just said you were unhappy, Emery." I chewed slowly. Swallowed. "I did. 100 times. You called it complaining." Her lip twitched. Not quite a frown. Not quite regret. Something in between. She looked tired. Not just sleepy, but worn down, like a house that had survived too many winters. I didn't say anything else. Just cleaned my plate, rinsed it, and put it away. Later, when I went back to the guest room, I noticed something strange. Her old travel bag, the one she always used for girls' weekends, was sitting by the door. Not packed. Just there. Like a threat. Or maybe a test. I didn't ask. Instead, I went to the bathroom and saw something even stranger. Her wedding ring was on the edge of the sink. She never took it off. Not even when she was mad. And I should have felt something. Anger. Sadness. Dread. But all I felt was relief. Not because I wanted her to leave, but because, for once, she was the one unsure of everything. I went back to the guest room and laid in the dark, thinking about the hotel I'd booked for the weekend. 2 nights. Downtown. Anonymous. Not to cheat. Not to escape. Just to remember what silence felt like when it wasn't filled with blame. At 1:17 a.m., I heard the front door unlock. Not open, unlock. I got out of bed, stepped into the hallway. Taryn was standing there in the foyer, barefoot, keys in her hand, wearing jeans and a jacket over pajamas. She looked at me like I'd caught her in someone else's life. "I just needed air," she said quickly, too quickly. I couldn't sleep. I nodded. She walked past me, the scent of cold air clinging to her, and shut the bedroom door behind her without another word. I stood there for a long time, listening to the quiet. I wasn't suspicious. I was curious, not about where she'd gone, but about how long she thought she could stay, pretending we were still building something. because I'd already started planning for a life without her. And the scariest part? It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like peace. I checked into the hotel on Friday at 6:12 p.m. It was one of those bland business places, beige hallways, carpet that smells like lemon disinfectant, a front desk clerk who doesn't make eye contact. Perfect. Anonymous. Clean. Unremarkable. The kind of place you go to vanish for a weekend and pretend you're not someone's husband. No calls. No texts. Not from her. I took a long shower, put my phone on airplane mode, and sat on the edge of the bed in a robe that didn't fit, staring out the window at a parking lot full of strangers. It was the most peace I'd felt in months. At 8:03, there was a knock at the door. I didn't answer it at first. I assumed it was housekeeping or maybe the wrong room. Then I heard her voice. "Emery? It's me." My stomach dropped. I didn't move. Another knock. Softer. I saw the confirmation email. "You left it open on the desktop." Of course I did. I hadn't even thought about it. My laptop was always logged in. She never touched it. At least, I thought she didn't. I opened the door. Taryn stood there in a hoodie, hair up, no makeup. She looked small, nervous, like someone walking into a room they weren't invited to. "I just wanted to talk," she said. "Not yell, not blame, just talk." I stepped aside. She walked in like she was scared I might change my mind. Sat on the armchair. Didn't look around. Didn't comment on the room. Just folded her hands in her lap and stared at the floor like a child about to confess something terrible. "I've been a terrible wife," she said quietly. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't dramatic. Just flat. Honest. I didn't respond. She glanced up at me. "You don't have to forgive me. I just needed to say it. Out loud." I finally spoke. "Why now?" She hesitated. "Because I thought you'd never leave. I thought, no matter how cold I got, you'd stay. And then you stopped trying. And it scared the hell out of me." I said nothing. She leaned forward. "You didn't even ask where I went the other night. I figured if you wanted me to know, you'd tell me." "I drove to my sister's house," she whispered. "I cried in the driveway for 30 minutes before going in. I told her everything. That I'd ruined us. That you stopped loving me. That I turned our marriage into a checklist." Still, I didn't say a word. She blinked hard, like the silence hurt more than shouting ever could. "I miss you, Emery," she said. "I miss the way you used to look at me, even when I didn't deserve it. I miss the dumb jokes and the late-night snacks and the way you used to hold my wrist when you fell asleep. I don't want a robot. I want you. Even the messy parts." I wanted to believe her. God, I really did. But I also remembered that last year on my birthday, she scheduled a dental cleaning and forgot to reschedule dinner. I remembered the time she rolled her eyes when I cried during a documentary. I remembered the months, years, where I begged for closeness and got cold silence in return. "I'm not the same anymore," I said. "I don't know if I can go back to being that guy." She nodded slowly. "Maybe you don't have to. Maybe we start from here." She reached into her coat pocket and handed me something. It was the note from the fridge, the one from last week that said, "Hope you're okay. Let's talk tonight." "I didn't throw it away," she said. I couldn't. I looked at it, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something. Not hope, not forgiveness, but the faint, awful feeling that maybe, just maybe, she meant it this time. And that scared me more than anything. Because if she did, then I'd have to choose. We didn't sleep together that night. She stayed in the hotel room, but she curled up in the chair again like she was afraid the bed was too personal, too sacred, too full of ghosts. I offered her a blanket without speaking. She took it with a thank you, so quiet it almost didn't exist. Around 2 in the morning, I woke up and saw her sitting there, still wide awake, eyes glossy and unfocused. She wasn't looking at anything, just existing in the dark. I didn't ask her if she was okay. That version of me, the fixer, the comforter, the man who filled every silence with warmth, he'd left the house long ago. The next morning, we checked out together, quietly, like two colleagues finishing a business trip. In the car, she asked if I wanted coffee. I said no. She drove in silence, hands gripping the wheel like it was the last stable thing in her life. And I realized something. She hadn't cried in front of me once. Not during the hotel conversation. Not after. She'd said all the right words, but none of them had come from that place where the voice breaks and the pride dies. She was sorry. I believed that. But I don't think she fully understood what she was sorry for. She wasn't mourning our love. She was mourning the loss of control. The quiet, stable man who used to orbit around her world was gone, and she didn't know how to live without that gravity. When we got home, she immediately started cleaning. Not in a normal way, in a manic way, wiping down windows that weren't dirty, rearranging the spice rack, scrubbing baseboards. I sat on the couch and watched her move like a woman being chased by her own guilt. Eventually, she stopped and turned to me, breathing hard. "I think we should go to therapy," she said. I shrugged. "Okay. Together, I mean." "Sure. You don't want to?" "I didn't say that. But you didn't say yes either." I looked at her, really looked. And for a moment, I didn't see the woman who forgot my birthday or the one who used to turn away when I reached for her. I saw a woman unraveling in real time, desperate to fix something with tools she never learned how to use. "I think therapy is a good idea," I finally said. "But not to save us." She went quiet. "I think you needed to understand why you only started loving me again when I stopped being convenient." Her mouth opened slightly like she was going to argue, but she didn't. She nodded once and left the room. That night, she slept in the bed. I stayed in the guest room. At 3:12 a.m., I heard her crying. Not muffled this time. Not polite. Full, raw sobs. The kind I'd waited years to hear. The kind I used to beg for when I needed proof she felt anything at all. And now here they were, falling into the dark like overdue rain. And I felt nothing. Not vengeance. Not satisfaction. Just this dull, quiet ache. Like a piano key that used to play something beautiful, but now only clicks. The next morning, she didn't mention the crying. She made me eggs. I didn't eat them. She kissed my shoulder. I didn't flinch. She said, "I'm trying." And I said, "I know." Because she was. But I wasn't. And I think that's what scared her the most. She was finally ready to fight. And I'd already surrendered. 3 weeks passed. We didn't have any big fights. No late-night ultimatums. No dramatic moves or slammed doors. Just space. Gentle, wide space between us, like a field that used to be a battlefield, now overgrown with silence. I slept in the guest room. She stopped asking when I'd come back. But she didn't stop trying. She started cooking again, not elaborate meals, just small things she remembered I liked. Eggs the way I actually prefer them. Toast without butter because I never liked the greasy film. She even started packing me lunch. Not with notes. Not with apologies. Just food, neatly wrapped. Thoughtfulness without the need for attention. And slowly, she stopped performing grief. She stopped cleaning obsessively. Stopped chasing me around the house with soft voices and strategic touches. She started going on long walks alone. Listening to podcasts about self-awareness. Journaling. Actually journaling. Not the kind where you write to be seen, but the kind where you confront your own rot and try to name it. And something shifted in me too. I started sleeping better. Started breathing deeper. And then one morning, I walked into the kitchen and saw her reading the back of a cereal box. Hair messy, hoodie inside out. And she looked real. No effort. No armor. Just her. And I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not bitter. Not numb. Just open. She looked up, startled. "Morning." I said, "I'll go with you today." She blinked. "Where?" "To that couple's therapy session you mentioned. If the offer's still open." She didn't cry. She didn't gasp. She just nodded slowly, like someone who knows better than to celebrate too early. And I appreciated that. Therapy wasn't magic. We sat through awkward pauses, unspoken things, and one brutal session where I admitted I hadn't been in love for a long time. She flinched, hard, but didn't leave the room. And over time, we didn't get back to anything. We built something new. We went on walks. Short ones. No holding hands, not at first. But eventually, our arms brushed and no one pulled away. We bought new pillows. Started sleeping in the same bed again. No expectations. Just presence. She kissed me one morning without asking. And I kissed her back without thinking. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a movie ending. It was two tired people finally telling the truth. Not with words, but with quiet decisions, one small, unglamorous choice at a time. I don't know if we'll last forever. I don't know if love ever really guarantees anything. But for the first time in years, I'm not surviving inside my own marriage. I'm living in it. And that's enough.